All right, so we went ahead and we've cut our block of wood for our toolbox. And you guys remember what we cut them to, what the length was? It was 12 inches. And if we take a look at our pattern right here, normally I actually cut these at 11 and 7/8. And the reason why I do that is it's a blade length less than 12 inches and allows us to get an equal number of pieces out of each board. But for this one here, we have it set up at 12. It's just the way we're going to do it this year. Obviously, we don't have a tremendous amount of kids in school. But if we take a look at this, we're going to measure our width next. And our width is 9 inches right on the money. So when I order these boards, they are 1 by 10 by 12 foot. All right, so it's a 1 by 10 by 12 foot. So does that mean it's 1 inch thick by 10 inches wide by 12 feet long? That's what most people would think. All right, and it's actually not. So dimensional lumber, all right, and plain down lumber like we're buying right here. When I order this, I actually order it as this species would be white pine. So I would say white pine, and I would specify 1 by 10 by 12 foot S4S. All right, and after the S4S, I say 3/4. So what that means is that it's 1 by 10 is our dimensional size, 12 feet long. S4S means surfaced 4 sides. So that's this side, and this side, and this side, and this side. But it's surfaced 4 sides down to 3/4 of an inch, right on the money. So they run it through the planer, and this is going to be 3/4 of an inch thick. Okay? It's also surfaced on this side over here and this side over here. And it's usually around 9 1/4 to 9 3/8 of an inch wide. We'll measure this here. This one's 9 1/4, this one's 9 1/4. So we need to rip this down to 9 inches. And the reason why we do that is because even though they're usually 9 1/4 or 9 3/8, sometimes they come in at 9 3/16. So we just say, you know what, we're going to make our pieces right at 9 inches and be in great shape. When we do this, all right, we don't have to worry about truing up one side because is it already trued up on all 4 sides? It is, okay? Technically, this piece right now would be a 6X because we went ahead and we squared this side up over the saw, and then we cut this one over here square, so it's a perfectly square piece. All right, but these edges over here are true, so we do not need to run these through the joiner. All right, we can just go ahead and rip these down. Now ripping, all right, ripping is where we do a cut with the grain. Do you see how the grain of this wood's going like this? So we're going to rip it with our grain. All right, if we were to cross cut it, that's when we go against the grain. So did we cross cut it over the chop saw already? Yeah. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to rip it down to that 9 inches. So let's go over a few things that we need to check before we go ahead and rip it. First things first, we're going to want our blade height right here to be 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch above. Right now I'd say we're right about that. We might be 5/16. All right, that's looking mighty fine. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our guide and we're going to move it to our 9 inches. Now I happen to have a little gauge over here, but it's always a good idea to double check it. We're going to take it from our guide to the outside of a tooth. Check it on 2 teeth. Looks mighty fine. Might have been off by 128, so it's going to be perfect. Now what we need to do is we need to take a look at our board and we need to say, which side do I want to rip off? Well, I'm only going to rip off a little bit, but maybe if I had like a big knot over here. Any of you guys got big knots? Okay, let's take a look at yours right there, Jaden. So you happen to have a rather large knot over here. Now, depending on how we rip Jaden's board here, we might be able to cut a majority of this knot out. Let's take a look. Oh man, you better believe it. So when we do Jaden's, guess what? We're gonna get lucky and we're gonna be able to take that whole knot out. But do you notice how I sucked it tight to this side over here? So we know that we're going to rip Jaden's knot side off. And we'll take a look at that when we do everybody else's. All right, so this happens to be my demonstration piece. What actually happened on this right here was I wound up splitting it right down the center. So I cracked it, re-glued it up because I don't want to ruin this piece. I just went ahead and I re-sanded it. I'm going to go ahead and rip off my side over here with my knot as well. So when I go to rip this, do you notice how this is nice and tight the whole way? Right? We don't see any real weird gaps or nothing like that, no spaces. All right, that's a nice true edge, and it's along our saw guide. Now we can see over here that we're going to take just a little bit off, right? When we go ahead and we cut this, all right, our hand placement, we got our red zone right here. We don't ever put our hands in our red zone. All right, we're going to have our hand like this. These three fingers are pushing it against the fence over here, and this thumb is pushing it against the fence over here, and my index finger is just holding it down. This hand stays stationary. This hand pushes it through. All right. Now, in addition to that, there's a few other things that we do need to think about. All right, when we push this through, we don't really want to push over here too much because it can start to curl like that. What we want to kind of do is push on a little bit of an angle like this, or also have a little bit of force against the fence as we push it through. Now, when we actually do this, we'll have this guard here down, okay? But for the demonstration right now, we're leaving it up so we can see what's going on. Now I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about this. What does this say right here, Bryson?
Saw stop.
It's a saw stop. And this particular saw over here has got a sensing mechanism where if I touch the blade with my finger, all right, it can detect my presence. It can detect my hand presence being over there. So do you guys see down here, do you see that green and that red light down there? Let me know what happens when I just touch this blade. Blink's red, so it's picking up my presence. So if I was to be running my hand down through, what happens is if it feels my finger in here, all right, there's a brake inside, and it jams this brake cartridge into our blade, and it actually drops the blade down in. Now, believe it or not, this one right here, this wasn't from anybody touching it, all right? It happened to be one of these fluke scenarios where I happened to be, I think we had an old deck board, I think we were building something I think we were building a cow feeder, believe it or not, for one of my cows, and I think we had some old deck boards, and they were pressure treated, and they were sitting outside, and they had a nail in it, and it was one of these weird things where it was able to pick up my presence, holding the table, all right, and I think like a little nail or something might have just nicked this, and it was enough to, boom, trigger it and go off. And I said, how the heck did this even happen? My fingers were nowhere close. And sure enough, when we went ahead and looked, it had just touched that little bit of nail. It was enough to complete the circuit and drop it down. Now, I'm not saying that I want this to happen, okay, but this blade, all right, can we agree the blade is now destroyed? Yeah. And the blade's about $50, and the brake cartridge is about another $90. So every time this goes, we're losing about $140. And yes, that sounds terrible, but do you guys value any one of your fingers at less than $140? No, I think they're worth way more than that, right? So we hope that we don't ever have to use that, but it's there as a just in case, all right? Because sometimes we don't quite think about everything that's going on, and sometimes even if we are thinking, accidents unfortunately happen. All right, so can we agree that we have this set up to the right height? We've got this set up to the right width, and now we're ready to go ahead and push it through. Now this happens to be such a big area right here that we don't need to use anything special like a push stick or anything like that because we got a lot of space. But if we were doing something that was really narrow, then we couldn't fit our hand down through, and we would use the push stick. Remember, when we do want to push this through, should we be forcing it just a little bit on this type of an angle? How come? So it doesn't do that curve going out this way, right? Because we want to make sure that this stays true and tight against our fence the entire way. All right, we're going to go ahead. We're going to put down our guard. Remember, this hand stays just like this. All right, I have this backed up. This hand doesn't go forward, just my right hand's going to. Can you go ahead and turn on that dust collector for me right there, please? All right, outstanding. I'm going to go ahead and start it by pulling out this stop button. Put my hands right here and watch this. I'm going to push right on down through. notice how it stays good and true along that fence. All the way through. We don't ever run our hands back through, we always take it out, okay? We don't ever run the board back through, we always leave it, let it come to a complete stop, and then we can grab that, and we can grab our other piece right here. All right, let's take a real quick measurement right here. Should be 9 inches. Look at that, right on the money. She's a real beauty. Is this one here yours, Jane? Okay. So, which side are we going to go ahead and take off of yours, bud? Do you remember? Yeah, we're going to rip it off of that side, right? So one other thing I forgot to tell you guys a little bit. Sometimes what you want to do is you want to take a look at the cup of the board. And if we take a look at the cup of this board, that's where we sight down this edge from here to here. All right, can you see that it's pointing that way a little bit? Can you see how this is the hill and this is the valley? Here's another way you can tell. If I put it like this, look, teeter-totter. So we know that this is the hill over here. We always have the hill pointing up. Just like in real life, the hill, right, is like an N or an upside down U. So Jaden, we're gonna take this like this. We're gonna bring it right over here. I'm gonna have you stand over here. And you guys will see sometimes when we do this here, you'll see me standing next to you guys. And I help you hold it usually for the first time, but I kind of hold it out of sight, all right? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put this down. Let's put our hand over here and suck that really tight over there. Ready? Watch my fingers once more. See how this one's on top? These are pushing, this just holds down. Go ahead and try that. Perfect. We're gonna sneak these up like that. All right. We lay our palm down on our table. Palm down. There you go. And yep, there, right. That looks fantastic. And see how I'm gonna have this stick right here? This is just a little bit of a helper until we really get used to doing it. It looks mighty fine and tight over there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it on for you. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to push it down through. All the way. All right, let's press the stop button over here. And let it come to a complete stop. Okay, you can remove that piece there. And let's go ahead and take our board out of there, please. Jaden, was that pretty easy for you to do?
Yeah.
It was. All right. And the rest of us are going to go ahead. We're going to run ours through here next when we turn the video on. All right. Remember, we got to think about a couple things. Number one is that our left hand doesn't move forward. Number two, all right, is that when we push forward, we're always pushing on just a little bit of an angle over here. And I sometimes achieve that by using my hand like this. See how my thumb is more this side of center? And guess what? I'm kind of going like this a little bit. See how I'm kind of giving that a little curl like that? And I push it right on down through like this. All right, and I'm giving it that little turn. All right, listen, I'm gonna cut the video. The rest of us are gonna go ahead. We're gonna run it down through, and then next video that we make, we're gonna be cutting these bad boys down. So, looks fantastic. All right, so your board right here, do you remember what the last tool was that we used? Do you remember what the name of that tool was back there?
Saw stop.
Okay, so it is a saw stop. It's a table saws that is the name of the tool, and the brand happens to be a saw stop table stop. I'm sorry, saw stop table saw. Say that 10 times fast, right? All right, so anyways, yeah, we went ahead and we ripped it down. We actually ripped it on this side here. We ripped it down to our 9 inches, and now we're ready to go ahead and draw one of our patterns on this so that we can go ahead and start cutting it out with the bandsaw. So our pattern happens to be 9 inches from here to here. And on this pattern, I don't know if I said it on video or not, but our pattern's actually 11 7/8. But for this project here, we did ours at 12 inches because it's a little bit different of a year this year. The reason why I normally do it at 11 7/8 is because out of a 10 or 12 foot long board, I can get an even number. I can get either 10 or 12 of them, all right? Because that's 11 7/8. If I add the blades width, all right, that 1/8 of an inch of the blade, I can just keep cutting and I don't wind up with one at the end. It's 11.5 inches. This year here, a little bit different. We did them at 12. So, common mistake that kids sometimes do when they put the patterns on here is that they don't put the bottom flush with the bottom of their project. They put it wherever and then they draw this, or it's cockeyed, or something like that. It sounds silly, but it happens a lot of times. Now, when we go to put our pattern on this, we need to think about a couple of things. Number one, what do we see right here?
That big mark.
Oh yeah, we have a big mark on there, and that big mark happens to be a knot. That's a really funky knot. We definitely have a knot right here, and then we have another knot over here. And if we take a look at it, it looks like we probably had a branch that grew up like this. We had another one over here like this, and we had another one over here. So that's a kind of a funky, real funky knot that happens to be in your wood. The nice part is on this project right here, we're going to remove this section over here and this section over here. So on your particular project, it looks like we can work around a good portion of your knot. All right, so we went ahead and, do you notice how I put your bottom flush with the bottom right here? And does it quite go up to the top up here or no?
There's just a little bit.
There's just a little bit. Normally it would end right here. This year it does not. So when we take a look at this, I can see that I'd be cutting a little bit of my knot out here. And I still got this one here, but this one's a pretty solid looking knot. I'm not too concerned about that. This one over here doesn't concern me as much, but we get this real funky looking thing out of here, which is kind of where we want to be. All right, so we're going to take our pattern, we're going to put it on our project, and what I do is I flush it up down here at the bottom. All right, I am not worried about, even if I got a little bit showing here or over here, I am not worried about tracing that. We are just going to strictly start right here at this top taper, or top rounded area, and we're just going to go right up to the top, and rather than tracing the top, we're just going to go right out, and then we'll do the same thing over here, and we'll go right up and out. Now remember, when I trace, all right, I don't want to run my pencil like this. I want to run my pencil with the tip so that it actually follows my pattern. And right here, just go right on up and out. Same thing over here. I want to transfer my line onto my paper by angling my pencil tip so that it follows right along that. If I go like this, it's not going to be exactly like the pattern. That looks mighty fine. I happen to like the way that looks. Now, could we probably cut this out with the bandsaw without any relief cuts?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. But are we proficient with the bandsaw in here right now? We just started using it. So we're definitely going to put some relief cuts in here. And the nice part about relief cuts is they give us a fresh start every time we end at one. All right, nice fresh start. Angle our blade a different way. It's a nice start over. All that we're going to do for our relief cuts for this, we're just going to grab a ruler, put it flush with the top of our project like this. Come over here. Mark it like that. Notice how I don't go all the way through. Why do you think I don't go all the way through?
So you can cut it.
Yeah. You think kids have cut right down through there before?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, better believe it. Do you notice how now I put the top of my ruler on that line? And we'll go ahead and we'll draw another one. And that's weird. So here. Now when we cut these relief cuts later with the bandsaw, should we stop right at our line of our pattern, or should we stop before it, you think?
A little before.
Yeah, I would definitely stop before it. All right, that way we can cut to the outside of this line, and just like on the last project that we did we have to do a lot of hand sanding in here, or were we able to use a machine?
Very good machine.
Yeah, we were. And on this project here, we're actually going to learn how to use another machine, and we will do a little bit of filing on these, so it's okay to be off the line a little bit. So the next time that we cut into this video, we're going to go over how to start cutting all of our relief cuts here and how to cut our pattern out, and we'll be in great shape. So stay tuned. All right, so we're ready to go ahead and cut the paddle section here out. We have our relief cuts drawn. I wanted to show you guys something here real quick. Kind of goes along with the relief cuts. And all I'm going to do is I'll take this right here, and we'll say that this is a right angle. Pretty darn close. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a section of lines right here, about a pencil's width apart. Call these relief cuts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we'll do the same thing down here. And we are going to take a straight edge right here, and we're going to draw some nice straight lines. Now let's go from each dot to each dot. So I believe we can all agree that I drew a bunch of straight lines off of this here. And if we take a look at this straight line that we drew, we can tell that we have a curve here. And in between each one of these little lines is nothing but a straight line. So it's all straight lines. But since there's so many of them, the appearance is a curve. And we could easily smooth that out later on using a file and a spindle sander. So let me show you what that would actually look like using this here. So we're going to cut our relief cuts right up to our line, but not into it, and then we're just going to try to make nice straight cuts from here to here. And if we make them a little bit curved, that's fine, but as long as we just go straight to straight, straight to straight, straight to straight, the overall appearance is a curve. So let's go ahead and turn this here on. And I'll use this little bandsaw down here. It's a tricky one to use. Notice on this particular one, I cannot make in any more relief cuts because I'm going to hit my frame. So I'm going to make a relief cut this way. And boy, I just took a big chunk there out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from here out to here. Go straight. There. You go very slow now. I'm going to ever so carefully turn it. Oh, that looks beautiful. Let me try to take a little bit more off of this right here. Just did a straight line. That one I gave a little bit of a curve to. I happen to like the way that looks. I think I'm plenty close enough to my line right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this right here, and I'm going to try to actually make that slight curve, leaving my line. Now, we could always stop before we cut into a line. Why we don't, I'm not quite sure, but we can always stop before cutting into a line. Usually we can back out. If we get into a little bit of a pickle, we can come get me. We just turn the machine off, come get me, and I will help you work your way out of it. I'm gonna do this last little one right here. It's a little bit bigger of a curve. Let's just take a little bit off. nice and slow. Yeah, that looks beautiful. Do our last little one here. And I want to try to make that curve if I can. So, if we take a look at this right here, we can see my entire line. I did not cut into it at any spot, and I'm pretty close. I'm about a blade's width away. But I am close enough now that I can put this in my vise once I cut out my other side of my other paddle, and I can carefully file these together. Remember, a bunch of straight lines, nice and close together, in appearance, can make a nice curved line.